Well, happy Mother's Day. This is the day in our church that we get the privilege of honoring the many, many brilliant and loving women in our church. I have suspected that all our moms decided that us kids were such a handful that it was going to take an army of moms to love us the way that God wanted us kids to be loved. So that's why that's why all of our parents decided to start coming to Montevilla. So to our many spiritual moms, we miss your hugs. We have something special, though, for you lined up tonight. We are doing a very special talent show, and we are attempting to do it live at 7 p.m. tonight, if the technology will allow it. The same way that you are watching this, whether by YouTube or Facebook, is the same way that you'll be able to watch this live at 7 tonight. At least that's our hope. So that means that it's not too late to get your videos in today, but don't delay, because every hour that goes by just increases the risk that we are not going to get it in time. I know this because last week we ran into an uploading delay and we got the Hispanic service up a little late on YouTube and actually had trouble with it getting uploaded on Facebook. So we're really sorry about that, but let that be a lesson to you. Do not take it for granted and get those submissions in just as soon as possible. Simply email it to social@montevilla.church, social@montevilla.church. Also, I wanted to thank all of you who've been praying for my wife, Michelle. The doctors had suspected that she probably had the COVID-19 virus in the past, but the testing was really limited. So they told us to simply keep an eye on it. But last week her cough increased, her breathing became quite a bit more complicated. So we asked for your prayers, and they were able to get her in for testing. And thanks to your prayers, the results came back that she currently does not have an active virus, which is a huge relief. I think the Lord is just making sure that I don't take her or your prayers for granted. So thank you so very much. If you need prayer for anything, I highly recommend that you let the prayer warriors in our church know. You can let us know those prayer requests by simply emailing us at office@montevilla.church, office@montevilla.church. Also, you can give online and through the mail as well. Currently, we are still making payroll. We're paying the bills, but the elders did vote and determined that we would need to postpone voting on the new budget, which typically happens in May, because right now we can't even meet together to vote, and we're very uncertain about what exactly the financial future holds for all of us. But if you are a part of this church and you're struggling financially, like I know that some of you are, please, would you let us know that as well? Because you are not alone. We are family, and we look out for each other, especially during this crisis. In fact, we want to pray right now. Dear God, we turn to you because we have found that you are our refuge. You are our shelter in the storm. And God, we recognize that everything we have is yours. And we're not just saying that now, Lord. That's something we put into practice Sunday after Sunday with our tithes and our offerings as a demonstration of that spiritual reality. So God, we are your body. And when one part of our body hurts, the whole body hurts. So would you bring healing to this body? We stand together as your family, and we ask all of this through the authority of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Who am I that the highest King would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Whom the sun sets free. Oh, it's free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Free at last, he has ransomed me. His grace runs deep. Well, a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. The Son sets free. Oh, it's free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Oh, I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free. Oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
So how would you describe a pineapple to an Eskimo who had never seen one? The struggle to figure out is, how do you describe something that they don't know by using things that they already do know? We do this when we try to explain our emotions. We will use similes, metaphors. We'll say things like, I'm proud as a peacock, or he's blind as a bat, or it was clean as a whistle. He is strong as an ox. It's as easy as shooting fish in a barrel. That went over like a lead balloon. Last night I slept like a log. I am happy as a clam, which is odd. Never thought of clams as being happy. Jesus would use stories to give his disciples a better understanding of deeper truths. The father running out to welcome home his prodigal son, trying to remove a speck in another person's eye while having a plank sticking out of your own eye. He used word pictures like whitewashed tombs, blind guides, lost sheep, vine connected to branches, feeding pearls to pigs, camels trying to squeeze through the eye of a needle. Today, oftentimes, we will use common literature or movies to describe what we're trying to convey. Saying things like, oh, they are a real Romeo and Juliet is very different than saying, they are a real Bonnie and Clyde, or they get along like the Hatfields and the McCoys. You see, each one of those pairs, they show something very different. We'll even use movie quotes to kind of use it as a quick reference to the emotions that we're trying to convey. When you hear someone say, Houston, we have a problem. Very different than hearing, they can take our lives, but they can never take our freedom. Or, you shall not pass. Or a phrase like, just keep swimming. Or even, you want the truth? You can't handle the truth. See, each one of those invoke a very different set of emotions. In the book of Isaiah, God has revealed to his people who've continued to press for so long to rebel against God that he was allowing them to be on their own, out from under his protection. And they're going to end up reaping the consequences by being defeated and captured by their enemies and being held in captivity for years. But God doesn't want this loss to be misunderstood and assume that God is all done with them and that they are simply going to go the way of the many long-forgotten kingdoms of old that have faded into antiquity. And so, in order to communicate it, he gives them a sneak peek of what's ahead, to give them hope for their future release and their coming restoration. I realize right now, in the middle of being locked up in this quarantine, we have just a tiny taste of what that must have felt like, just to know the hope of the future. So in the last chapter of Isaiah, God says that when this time of suffering and captivity was over, he would restore them. Verse 12 of chapter 66 says, "Look, I will give Jerusalem peace that will flow like a river. Wealth from all the nations will come flowing into her like a flood." But he doesn't want to just give them good news. He wants to convey his heart behind all of this, that he's not doing this out of obligation or duty. So instead, he turns to a word picture that would better reveal his heart, the heart behind this future hope. He says, "Like a little baby, you will nurse and be fed. I will hold you in my arms and bounce you on my knees. I will comfort you like a mother comforting her child." You see, when God looked for something to reveal his heart, the heart that he had for Israel, he turned to the word picture of a mom comforting her child who's been hurt or scared, being held in her arms and having a blast just playing together. We get it. Well, at least in part. You may never have seen some of the movies that I listed before, but over time you can kind of pick up their meanings pretty accurately. If you hear the phrase, "I love you 3000, you could kind of understand the emotions behind that phrase. But you wouldn't really get the power of it, the full emotions behind it, until you sat down and actually watched the Avenger Endgame movie where that phrase was originally used. If you did, then you'd have a much deeper understanding of the impact of that simple, beautiful, incredible phrase. The same might be true for us. We have an understanding of the word picture of a mom comforting her child, at least in part, but we thought it would add depth to that word picture if we were able to listen to moms themselves. So we asked some of our moms and some of their daughters, which are now moms as well, to reveal their hearts as moms, their own relationships, their hopes, the things that they wish they would have had a better understanding of sooner, or how they understand the heart of God so much better now that they are moms themselves. All of that in hopes that you might walk away today with a deeper understanding of God's love for you.
What I appreciate about my mom is that she had an incredible prayer life. She prayed for us kids, she prayed for grandkids, she prayed for grandkids to follow, great grandkids. And there were many, many times when my mom would come out of the bedroom after her prayer time, which was every day, maybe a couple of times a day, depending on some of the things that my parents were facing as pastor. Many times she came out with tears running down her face, but there was always this glow about her, and it was almost scary to come near her or to say anything to her, because it was just so awesome to see the Lord in her, and that was fabulous.
She has a youthful spirit and just sees things simply. What I've always appreciated about her is that she, while it's hard sometimes, she does get me to lighten up and smile and have some fun. And so she's definitely she's good at bringing out the fun in things.
She was a very loving, caring individual who loved the Lord with all her heart, I would say, had a very servant heart.
The thing I appreciated about my mom was that she showed me that family is most important, and family is everything no matter what.
Very warm, inviting, hilarious. She's creative, and she's musical, and she's tenacious. And a very important thing about Mom that I appreciate about her is that her core is about relationship, and it's what gets her up in the morning. It's what motivates her. She's the only person I know that can go to the grocery store and know every checker and their life story, I go to Costco with her and I literally have to say like, Mom, we got to go. So like, don't talk to anyone. And because she literally knows the person who like gets her card, and like, she goes to restaurants and the waiters invite her to their wedding. I mean, like, she is invested in people, and she's all about relationship with her kids, with the neighbors, with everyone. Doesn't matter who it is. If you meet Jen, you're her friend.
What I appreciate about my mom, it's hard to pick one thing because my mom is that awesome. But I would say my mom is your number one fan, and not just me, but just anybody. She makes you feel like you are the most important person in the world, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. And so I guess what that really comes down to is my mom is so encouraging. She is just the person who believes in you when you don't believe in yourself. And because of her encouragement, I never felt like I couldn't accomplish something because she was there to have my back. And there's not a lot of people out there who can be that for you consistently, but my mom has always been that for me.
I remember one time when I was in a dance practice. I was 11 years old, and usually the parents go to see the show. And I was practicing for the show, and my mom couldn't make it most of the time because she was working and 2 jobs sometime. And I remember it was my birthday. It was June 10th. And she showed up, and I didn't know she was there. And when I started the performance for that night, I looked behind me and I saw her. And I knew that she was tired, that she had a hard time and everything, but she showed up, and she showed me, that it doesn't matter, how difficult the times. When you're a mother and a woman, you learn how to overpass, any difficulties, and the happiness that brought me that day because of what she did. I take that until the last day of my life, because that was important time for me.
Everybody knows that she is a very caring, and she's like amazing at accomplishing things. She's like an amazing cook. She's an amazing hostess. But I think the thing I appreciate the most is the fact that she saw me in a way that, like when I was little, I would take naps, or she would put me down for a nap. And if I was struggling, she would sit next to me and she would just very gently rub my ear. Or when I had to have a surgery, she would hold my hand, and she had this soft touch, and it just, she wanted to communicate with me on every level. And so I think that's the thing. It's just, there's just this strong connection that means a lot.
The thing I remember the most about my mom is that she was a very giving mom. She would sacrifice whatever she could for her children. And sometimes if you go to the grocery store and she puts all her things into the cart, and afterwards all her things are removed and all her children's things are in the cart. But she was that way towards everybody. Whatever she could give, she would give of herself.
What I appreciate most about my mom is how selfless she is. I appreciate that she takes everything that she has and gives it to the people that she loves, whether it be friends, family, any time of day. She truly shows God's love by being a servant and by serving in any capacity that she is needed.
Like, if I had to pick a second thing I appreciated about my mom specifically, is she let me fail. Like, there were times where she would drop me off at friends' homes, and she knew. Like, I remember talking to her about it as adults. She's like, I just pray and I drive away and cry, and I knew this wasn't a good place for you. But at the end of the day, I knew that it had to be your choice. If I was going to make it for you, you were going to miss out on a good life lesson. And, and it's very true. Some of the hardest, most life-changing choices I made were because she put me in a place where I could fail.
She is all about being relational with her family, with the mailman, with, that sounds really bad. Maybe we should go with the first one. And clap.
The thing that I hope that my family remembers me, or friends remember me by, is my love for the Lord, first of all, and second, for my hospitality, something that I enjoy, and I feel like that's been a God-given gift to me, and I would hope that people would remember that.
The things that I would like my kids to remember me for is that I will always love them and accept them, and that they'll always have a seat at my table, regardless of their journey or where they're at in their life. They will always have somewhere to go. The one thing that being a mom has taught me about God is how deep his love runs for us. My love for my daughter is overwhelming at times, and I can't even imagine the type of love that he must have for us, and the desire, the deep desire that he must have to have a relationship and cultivate that with each one of us.
I would like to be remembered for being patient and for being intentional and being just a mom who cares deeply for the concerns of her kids and really listens to them well.
I want my daughter to remember us a very deep, loving person, and a person that really cared for the human being, and a woman that really loved God. And that's why I always love to serve people. And I think that's one of the meaning of my name, Aida, A-I-D-A. Aida means that. It means servant. I was thinking about a few days ago about how much I learned to be patient, because being a kid that grew up without a father, figure, I think I was missing that so much that I had, anxiety. I always, couldn't wait for the things to happen. I always want to resolve everything I can. And I was very strong and very aggressive. When I want to get something, I would just go for it. But I learned during, these times, and, especially in this country where you miss, your relative in Cuba, and you miss, those moments when I have my kids and I didn't have too many people around me, which is it's a really good part of my culture. I remember that I wasn't too patient. I was like, I learned how to pray more and read the Bible and trust the Lord, because through my daughter, they taught me so much.
The thing I'd like to be remembered for is showing God's love and kindness to everyone and having a positive outlook on life.
I want to definitely be remembered for having the same conviction of relationship being at the core of what drives me, my relationship with the Lord, my relationship with my kids, with everyone around me. That is something that our Oh Mama really lived out, and now our mom lived out, and I am living out, and I want to pass that on. I believe that it's important to pass that on as like a generational blessing. But another thing I want to be remembered by is that I lived life to the fullest, that I did not take things for granted, that I soaked up each moment. I soaked up the smells, the sights, the taste of food, and that turned into gratefulness and living a grateful life for God.
I really hope that they remember that my passion for them as kids and grandkids was for them to be able problems that they had between each other, and to fix them, and to love them unconditionally, love each other unconditionally. And so that is something that we've tried to hammer in our kids' heads for a long, long time. They have to get along. They don't have to agree on everything, but they do have to love one another. That is just, there's no other way.
How I want to be remembered as a mom is that I would like them to feel seen and heard and cared about. I feel that if you love your kids, and they know that they're loved, it's going to help them through so many more things than if they question it at times. And so that's my ultimate goal as a mom, is to make sure they know they're loved.
The thing that I would like to be remembered for is my love. I hope that my children and my grandchildren know without a doubt that they were loved. We didn't do this on our own. We had help from the church. We had help from parents. We had help from everybody. It's not an alone game at all. You have to play with people.
It's actually something I've been reflecting on a lot during this time of isolation, is just the people who have made me feel loved throughout my life. And actually, it's a lot of the moms at Montavilla who have done that, just the way that they have loved me. You don't remember all the days, the ins and outs of your childhood, but you do remember the way that people made you feel. So I hope that my kids felt love, that they remember love when they remember me. And really, that's just an outpouring of Christ's love through us. So that's what I hope. I hope that at the end of my life, that's what they would say about me.
The one thing I would go back and tell myself when I first brought my baby home is that every stage is just that. It's a stage. And just take it day by day. It does get better. And then you'll miss the stage that you just passed.
One of the things that I would go back and tell myself as a young mom is don't stress over your housework, your laundry, all of the mundane things of life that are necessities. Make sure that your kids' needs are met first, and that you have plenty of time to play with them.
One of the things I would go back and tell myself as a young mom is, don't be too hard on yourself for the mistakes that you've made. Nobody's perfect. There's no rule book. Let that stuff go. Have more fun with your kids. Write the things down, the first things that they've done, or the milestones that they make, or the cute sayings that they had. Those will be your treasured memories someday.
One of the things I would go back and tell myself as a young mom is that God's opinion was far more important on how we were raising our kids than people's opinions. So often we were controlled by what people thought or what people said we should do. And we didn't learn it right at the very start, but when the kids became about, adolescence age, we realized, I can't remember if it was through a seminar, if it was something the Lord just showed us, but his opinion of our children and how we were raising them was far more important than what people were thinking we should be doing.
One thing that I go back and tell myself will be trusting the Lord more, knowing that everything that happened has a purpose, and spending more time with my daughters, because I wasn't able to do that, and I miss that. I really miss those moments when they were little and I couldn't be at home with them all the time.
One of the things I would tell myself as a young mom is that comparison is the thief of all joy, and to not fall into the trap of comparing yourself, and to not fall into the trap of mommy guilt. I still do, and I have to stop myself and ask the Lord to stop me and repent from that, because it's not how he intends for us to live.
No matter what the flaws are that are going to be exposed, like the Lord is going to meet you, and he already knows those about you, and he loves you anyways, and his love isn't dependent on what your flaws are, and he knows how to help you, and he is the source of all healing, and he's the source of victory over those flaws.
Yeah, if I could go back and do things over, I would definitely change my priorities of what was important. So what was so all fired important. The spilt milk is not important, and yet, as a young mother, I freaked out far too often over stuff that was just. My child in that moment needed a mom who cared about them more than the milk.
If I could go back and talk to myself as a young mom, I would tell her to give herself grace, to allow herself the mistakes, to allow herself the trials, the whatever it is, but just to extend grace to myself.
One thing I would go back and tell myself as a young mom would be not to rush through each of the phases of development, and specifically not the fun ones, but the tough ones, the ones where you're staying up late at night because they won't go to sleep, or they're interrupting your quiet time, whatever it may be. I think as a working mom, I've always been really careful with that one, just knowing that the time I have with my kids is so precious because I don't get to have it 24 hours. You know, I only get it a certain amount of times. One really good example is that Emmett and I spend every morning together when I'm getting ready for work. He's the early riser like me. And it used to be that he would wake up so early that he would come in and he'd sleep on the floor in our bedroom because it wasn't time to wake up yet. So I had a little bed set up for him and he would just lay there. And it was a couple days ago where I realized he doesn't do that anymore. I don't have my little buddy there in the morning, you know, to step over as I'm getting ready for work in the morning. So just that reminder of these times don't last forever. So instead of trying to rush through them and, you know, the inconvenience of them, just embrace it and realize that it really is a blessing. I feel that way during this time right now, you know, so much so. Yes, it's hard to do online teaching. Yes, it's hard to lose our freedoms, but man, what a blessing this has been for me and my kids. And I've really tried to look at it that way. Because I won't get this time again.
The biggest blessing about my children is you always want them to be better than what you are, a better version of you. And my children are better versions of Larry and I. They took the best of us and they are better than that.
The one thing that being a mom has taught me about God is how deep his love runs for us. My love for my daughter is overwhelming at times, and I can't even imagine the type of love that he must have for us and the deep desire that he must have to have a relationship and cultivate that with each one of us.
Something that being a mom has taught me about God is the fact that he is incredibly patient with me. And every morning I wake up and go, Lord, thank you so much that your mercies are new every single morning. And please guide me through today. Because y'all, I mess up every single day. My kids can tell you that.
A couple of the things that I've learned being a mom is about trusting God and having faith in his ways that will happen more than my ways because his plan is better. He helped me every inch of the way in my motherhood adventure, especially praying for your children and their spouses and your grandchildren. He has really blessed me that way.
The thing that I learned about God the most when I was a mom is that he is good all the time. No matter what trials I go through or whatever the children might be doing, I know I can count on God to get me through it. And the outcome's going to turn out okay.
The thing that I understand more about God based on being a mother is that I always knew that God loved me and that God forgave me. But I think before becoming a mother, in my brain, there were limits on that. And once I became a mother, it's like I now begin to see a little better into the infinity of it, and the pressing that I feel towards my kids when things aren't right. It's not a anger that comes. It's a deep and profound love, and a being frightened for them sometimes, and wanting to work through that, because it's just, they are the most important part of your world. Your family is your most important part.
The number one thing being a mom has taught me about God is just how incredible his grace and his patience are. He loves us no matter what we do. And I don't think I fully understood that until I became a mom and realized, man, my kids can just make me so angry. There are some things they do on some days that just drive me up the wall. But at the same time, it never, ever has put in question my love for them, my forgiveness, my grace towards them. And I don't think you really realize that until you're in the position of being a parent yourself and you realize, oh my goodness, wow, not only did my parents love me so much, but my Heavenly Father loves me that much as well.
The one thing that taught me about God, through my motherhood, is to be still, be patient. Because those years, when as a young mother, I had my first child when I was 26. Taught me so much about waiting, be patient, understanding those difficult moments, because being a mother is not easy, but be patient, I think. Yeah,
I can discipline my kids, but it doesn't change the fact that I love them. And man, my heart breaks when I have to discipline them sometimes. It's not that I want to do it, but I know it's what's best for them, and it's because I love them that I'm doing it. It never changes that. Number one, parenting is really making it the child's choice. Like we do the exact same thing. It's, you are choosing this. I don't want this for you. This is what's going to happen if this is the choice you make. I hope this isn't the one you make.
One of the things that God taught me about being a mom was unconditional love. Many times there were days when I didn't like my kids too well. Maybe they'd driven me crazy or something, but I just remembered how much God loves me no matter what I've done. And through that, I could see how much he cares for me, even when I'm not what I should be.
One of the things being a mom that taught me about God was that God is patient with me, that he's not a negative God, he's a positive God, that my dependency is not on myself, but on him. And that is something I have to learn every day. The other thing is that he is waiting 24 hours a day to live his life through me. And nothing coming from me, but everything coming from God is my motto.
So what I've learned about God while being a mom is that God's love really is unending and is unfailing and never has no end when I mess up. And his heart of compassion really is full of compassion. And I've learned that because when my kids mess up and when they say they're sorry, I really feel full compassion for them. And I know that I, who am broken, when I continue to fully accept them for who they are, even though they're just 3 and 2, God will continue to always fully accept me when I mess up, when I come to him and say I'm sorry. And he's going to always love me no matter what. And that's such a a beautiful thing that I've always known about God, but I feel like I just understand that more from his perspective now that I've experienced doing that for my kids.
So may we honor the heart of the many women in our church and the ones in our lives that have reflected the heart of God. May we see that God placed them in our lives to illustrate for us how deeply he loves us, how much he cherishes us, how patient he is with us, how he longs for us to flourish and not be destroyed by our own rebellion, and that when he disciplines us, he does it out of love, not out of vengeance. And that no matter how painful that discipline is, he longs to comfort your hurting heart and longs to pour out his blessings, just like these moms, just like the many, many women who continue to pass on God's blessing to each of us. May he continue to bless you even more. May the women in our lives be blessed even more.
Bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace.
May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his presence go before you, and behind you, and beside you, all around you, and within you. He is with you, he is with you in the morning, in the evening, in your coming and your going, in your weeping and rejoicing. He is for you. Amen. Amen. go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you, He is with you in the morning, in the evening, in your coming and your going, in your weeping and rejoicing. He is for you.
So thanks again, moms, especially those ladies who spoke today and were vulnerable enough to reveal their hearts. We had so much great stuff that we're seeing if we could put together another video with more of their comments. And speaking of videos, please don't forget about our Montavilla Online Talent Night. It's tonight, 7 p.m. live on Facebook or YouTube, the same ways that you're watching us right now. So join us. Take some time to type in your applause or your heart emojis, and remember that we're doing this live, so you can still connect up the way that you would normally do that. But time is running out, so get those videos into us as soon as possible. We love you. We miss you. Don't forget to wash your hands. And here is your video bonus.
Yes, I appreciate that our mother is alive. Winning. This is going to be a fun interview. You're not going to be able to use any of it.
Oh, I just figured out what my bonus video of the week is.
I put earrings in. I want everyone to know. I haven't worn them for almost 8 weeks, and I couldn't get them in. My ears are burning, but I'm doing it because I love everyone. I got dressed up. I'm still in yoga pants, but I have my sparkly earrings in.